Back of the boat, you'll see stairs on either side that lead you downstairs. I know, a little bit of a shocker. And there you'll find Sam, full-service bartender. She's waiting for you. We have a variety of beers on tap, wines, mixed drinks, and some soft drinks as well. Water, sodas, and some light snacks. Also, be sure to find the restrooms on the right-hand side of the vessel. So visit Sam, grab yourself a human. But you guys picked a lovely time for a boat ride. A lovely time for a boat. Shoreline sightseeing. My name is Don. I'm going to be your edutainer today. What does that mean? My goal is twofold: to educate and entertain. All right, I'm actually a high school history and economics teacher by trade. Yes, thank you guys. Well, I go from the traditional classroom to the floating classroom with you guys here today. So what am I going to do? Well, aside from educate and entertain, how am I going to do that? These buildings, they're going to tell the story of Chicago, and they're going to tell about her values of being a city that is resilient, adaptable, innovative, and of course, beautiful. And I'll decode them and talk about them. They're the living textbooks that we're going to explore here today. So on an architectural boat cruise along the Chicago River to see Sweet Home. Oh man, I love this energy. You guys bring your A game, which means I got to bring my A plus profits, because that is the Wrigley Building, named after the Wrigley Chewing Gum Company. Now, that first part of the building with the clock tower at the top is designed after a cathedral in Seville, Spain. Now, American architects in the early 1900s, we were like the little brother on the architectural scene. We were trying to find our own sense of architectural beauty. And in the meantime, all we did was we copycatted European styles, and we'll see how we gradually found that sense of architectural beauty later on in this adventure together. I want you to see that toothpick at the top of Trump Tower. That is called a spire. And I want you to keep that in the old noggin. We'll talk more about that later. The other thing I want you to notice are these three rooftop patio areas. They are called setbacks. Now, none of them are going to be arbitrary heights. They're all by design. That first setback, the same height of the Wrigley Building that we just passed, is going to be the same height as the AMA Building. It's that black boxy building currently being eclipsed by Trump Tower. Now, why am I pointing all this stuff out to you? Because the architectural style being represented here is called contextualism. And what that means is just kind of like a puzzle, where all the puzzle pieces fit together to make for a beautiful picture. Contextualism, you're trying to flatter the man-made and natural context of your surroundings. More great examples of contextualism later on. Now, let's talk about the star-architect, the lead architect that designed Trump Tower to your right. That is going to be Chicago's own. And look to your left and see that reflective glass building with the white granite vertical stripes. Now, follow those granite vertical stripes all the way up to the top. And there you'll see this triangular roof. That's called a pediment. And it's straight out of ancient Greek-style architecture. The architectural style being reflected here is called neoclassical. What does that mean? It means it's a new take on an old architectural design style. It's meant to flatter and show appreciation for what came before. Rather than trying to copycat styles, we're going to use modern materials to reflect our appreciation. You guys are going to see my favorite architectural style along the entire tour today. You guys excited? You guys ready for it? Get those cameras up. Goes over to the right. We have Art Deco. It's trying to show the glitz. Hopeful optimism for a machine-made future. And how does that reflect that? Well, you'll notice a variety of repetitive patterns, decoration, polished Indiana limestone, deep inset windows that form vertical racing stripes. They kind of look like the pinstripe suits of the 1920s. And directly in front of this building, you'll see these pest dispensers. These heads on pillars. Those are going to be the merchandise princes. People that brought a lot of economic activity here to Chicago in the early 1900s. You might know some of them. Marshallfield, Montgomery Ward, Sears, just to name a few. And let's talk more about some of these other beautiful, iconic buildings at Wolf Point. That building in front of us is a fan favorite amongst the kids because they say it looks like one of two things, with the one with the curved top and bottom. They say it looks like a giant Hot Pocket or a giant McDonald's apple pie box. And now you can't unsee either of those. That is actually the point on that beauty of the building later on. Are you guys ready for me to nerd out a little bit on some history? Cool. The spoiler alert I was going to anyway, but now that at least I got your approval, I feel better about it. So Chicago River, this is Wolf Point, where the three branches are a lot of agriculture, livestock, meat to other parts of the country. Our south side was actually called the hog butcher capital of the world, which, if you ask me, is quite abhorrent. And, oh yeah, they only get worse from here, folks. So after the livestock would be slaughtered on the south side, that is Fulton House. Except, it's no longer a freezer. It's now luxurious condominiums. And when they were converting it to condominiums, they actually had to cut through 3 feet of matted horsehair and cork, which was the insulation of the time. But it really worked because it took 3 months for that building to fully appreciation for our main waterways that we do today. The Chicago River, for most of the 1800s and 1900s, heavily polluted. Now, take a look at the river cottages to your left. River. When Harry Weiss designed those in the 1980s, people thought he was pretty foolish. But he was a pretty wise guy because he anticipated more people were going to want to live closer to the river. But back then, people thought the river was heavily polluted, and this was the industrial branch of the Chicago River condominiums. These are going to be constructed about 2 decades later after the East Bay Club. But notice how they're actually facing us. These balconies and these doorways are looking towards the Chicago River with fascination. I want to do a quick check with you guys after you get a nice wave in. Is anyone here from Chicago? Is anyone here outside of Illinois? Outside the United States? Right? Outside of North America? Well, you'll see a residential building with a white concrete base. Notice how it curves inward. they actually curve outward and inward at the exact same radius. So another way we show some nice cool contextualism. We're trying to fit in rather than stand out, playing nice in the sandbox with your neighbors. All right, something else I want to show you of cool contextualism is, remember Ferris Bueller's dad's office building that we saw earlier? Pushed against the building, the water in the tank sloshed back in the opposite direction to help stabilize the building. Now, another cool thing about this building, get those cameras up, folks, and look to your right, because you're about to see the prettiest sight on the entire 75-minute journey today. Cameras up, to your right, the prettiest sight on the entire journey is right above you, I swear. The prettiest sight is all of you guys here today. I get a collective aww.
Aww.
Thank you. How wholesome is that? Give yourself a nice wave. Say hey you. And a nice compliment. Take time to celebrate you guys today. Around, they were able to get around that 30-foot setback ordinance. Because look up. That Bank of America building is actually hovering over the Chicago River Wall. Rather than being built directly on it, it's built over it. So it's a creative way to abide by that ordinance. The other cool thing at eye level to your left, you'll see these graded tiles. Those graded tiles are actually from the office building that stood here before the Bank of America building was here. So it's a nice little nod to showing appreciation for our past. And speaking of our past, guess what? 1920s, Art Deco, the sophistication in class, and optimism of the Jazz Age, right? Look at all the decoration in our nation. And the 1920s, they continued to roar until 1929. Another factor that really shows black box modernism, form follows function. So these are all office buildings, and what is the purpose of an office building? To house business. So these buildings don't need to look like they belong in a museum. They just need to do, they say that they do. So now we go from the 1950s and 1960s to the 1970s. Shocker. We now enter international style. Let's bring it over here to the left. We didn't talk about this building until 2014. They added something pretty cool. That wise Wolf Point, where the 3 branches of Chicago River meet. That red Lego brick, that's you guys. Give yourself a nice wave and a nice compliment. Celebrate you guys again. Yes. That's where you are now. Anywho, we're about to head under a highway, and I'm going to prepare you guys for the next part of our journey. It's going to be quieter on the South Branch. So let me prepare myself for the quiet. At that time, there was a layer of oil caked on top of it, where the actual river caught fire. And the other thing, you remember when we were playing Disaster Bingo in 2020, look at things go worse. Went from a pandemic to murder hornets. Well, I have 2 words of how things could have gotten worse. 100,000 people without a job, without a home, or both. And it can be worse. Because over 300 people are going to perish in the Great Chicago Fire. And it's going to cause $4 billion in damages. And you can better believe that's just for inflation. So those are the facts of the Great Chicago Fire, and we're sticking with them. But here's the fiction. Now, we still don't know what caused the Great Chicago Fire. We still don't know what caused the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. But fine, our scapegoat was a scapegoat. cow. Now, folks, here's when the terrible dad puns come along, because I tell a variety of cow puns, but only 2% of people like them. Yes, part 2, which is going to be hope. Now, the Great Chicago Fire was the worst moment in this city's history, but our greatest opportunity for growth. What? How's that happen? Well, architects from all across the country, they're going to see a blank canvas here in Chicago. We're placing the skyscraper. Happens here. And Chicago's not done. We're just getting started. Because in 1893, Chicago's one of many American... Building. That is the Merchandise Mart. And at one point, it was seen as the largest building in the world. Now, it only has about 25 floors, so that's why I didn't say tallest. Let's break down to see how big of a building. So, after our journey together today, this journey actually ends about 8:45. So march on over and watch Art on the Mark along the Chicago River, because it's 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m. Cool, authentic scene. Hey guys, you want to hear a spooky story now? All right, maybe we won't do a spooky story. And towards the middle of the boat, you'll see it coming into view right now. It has that blue-yellow ribbon at the top. And at the back of the boat, you guys will see it here momentarily, right about now. That is John Hancock Tower, and it's going to have what's called a LEED certification, meaning Leadership in Environmental and Energy Design. You'll see it coming into view again here to your right, just behind the James Hardy building. So that just means it's more of a green building, right? It's going to try to prevent the use of pollution, because all those balconies, they are designed to limit the amount of sunlight that gets inside your unit, meaning you use less electricity, air conditioning, and the tallest building in the world, designed by a female-led architectural firm. She is a literal genius for several ways.
That is beautiful,
all
yeah.
3 of our ways to reduce weight found inside. We have the 4 bundle. I noticed you guys are looking at that building to your left. The one that looks like a giant stack of fidget spinners or a giant glass. That is Lake Point Tower. And that's the only building you'll see built east of DuSable Lake. of our journeys here in Chicago, you're going to need something to remember this experience by. So our captain, he's going to give us the best opportunity for photos here. So you guys can stand up. Just make sure you don't stand up on any of the benches, any of the chairs. I'm going to jump off the mic, so if there's any way I can help enhance your experience.